Bhante Kovida. We are very fortunate to have with us Bhante Kovida from Canada. He'll be sharing with us on the topic, being at home with the Dhamma. Bhante Kovida grew up on the tropical island of Jamaica, West Indies, of Chinese descent. He immigrated to Canada, did some science studies, then traveled overland from Europe through India, Nepal, via Turkey, Iran, and southwest Pakistan. Bhante began the study of Indian history and culture, yoga and meditation, and Buddha Dhamma. After doing social development in Sri Lanka, Bhante Kovida took ordination with Bhante Mahang Balangoda Ananda Materia, a noted scholar and teacher and meditation practitioner. January 1991. Since then, Bhante has been traveling and sharing the Dhamma in several countries, including Malaysia, Singapore, UK, Europe, New Zealand, Australia, US, and across Canada. Bhante Kovida also conducts mindfulness retreats and Qigong sessions as an effective way of dealing with stress and emotional stress, including upset, frustrations, anxiety, and depression. So we invite Bhante to share with us the Dhamma.
So Qigong is very simple, which is why I do it. I don't like anything complicated. And it's a form of mindfulness. It's a dynamic, moving form of mindfulness. It's very simple. And the reason why I do it wherever I go is because it's very, you can say it's a skillful way of dealing with stress and emotional stress, including upset, frustration, anxiety, and depression. Because as you know, depression is often related to anxiety. And the world is getting more and more anxious. I'm sure you've noticed that. And one of the reasons is not only the news media, watching too much news media, which is unhealthy, but also it's coming from the smartphone. So if you're wondering why you're so anxious and impatient, it's actually from the smartphone. So I use the smartphone sometimes, but I'm not attached to it. So I didn't come all the way from Canada to tell you to throw away your smartphone. No, that would be unskillful. But all I have to say is use the phone when you need to use it, and when you don't use it, put it away. And the world is not going to come to an end. I can swear to that. It only feels that way because of anxiety. You know, if you don't check, the world is going to come to an end. But the world will not come to an end. At least not for now, anyway. Eventually it will. Put it away and don't just scroll just mindlessly. Because it's the scrolling that is irritating the mind. Even monks are hooked to this. And I know two monks, one Vietnamese, one Sri Lankan. So they are so anxious from this constant scrolling, they are prone to anger and also fear and confusion. And the only time where they're not scrolling on their smartphones is when they have to do ceremony. But you know, when devotees come, they have no choice. They have to do the chanting ceremony. But when they're not doing the chanting ceremony, they're back on the smartphone. But I like to say, the smartphone is too smart for me. Thank goodness. You're looking at a dinosaur when it comes to smartphone technology. I said, I use it sometimes, but I'm not attached to it. And yes, I'm still using email. For a lot of smartphone people, the email is too slow. It's too slow. So we're so used to sending these fast, quick messages, right? On texting. And of course, the standard of English or whatever language you're texting in has gone down very badly. Because it's all, a lot of abbreviated language, right? It's not proper English. So I can't imagine texting in Chinese. I'm sure they have abbreviated Chinese also. Or Bhante, or whatever language you're texting. But I can understand if you're sending quick messages all the time, then the idea of writing a proper email seems very tedious. It's too slow. Qigong is getting more popular in Western countries, also in Europe. Because you can't avoid stress anymore, it's everywhere. Even in some temples, some monasteries are also getting stressful. It's very simple. As you know, it's nice to watch somebody doing Tai Chi, because it looks very graceful, but if you have to learn Tai Chi, it's very complicated. Because the feet are moving all the time. Whereas in Qigong, you don't worry about the feet, you just set up the body, and that moves.
When we do Qigong, what should we think? The mind should think of what?
Aha! No thinking, no problem.
Think of the step.
If you're aware of the movements, not thinking. Thinking is the problem. Shall we stand? Oh, thank you. Just face yourself. And this is really good when you're having, mental, emotional stuff happening. So feet apart. Just feel stable. I'm just going to do a little warm up. So breathing in, out, in, out, in, out. Okay. Now hands in front, left or right, doesn't matter. Okay. Breathe out. Then breathe in, down and up. And out. Then up. Breathe in. Breathe out. Okay. Now we do the balancing. Breathing in, breathing out. In, out. So you're aware of in-breath, going up, out-breath, coming down. So there's no need to think. Just be aware. Breathing in, breathing out. Okay, now we're going to work on the legs. And a lot of the chi comes from the legs. This is why when you're walking uphill or climbing the stairs or riding a bicycle, I don't know how many people are riding a bicycle these days, very quickly you feel warm. Huh? This is because it's coming from the legs. So again, feet apart, arms out, okay? Breathing in, and then breathing out, slowly bending. About halfway, palms up, breathe in slowly, breathe out. In, out. So this helps to strengthen the legs, and at the same time you're energizing the body. Now from here, breathe in open. Ah. And as you go, you smile, okay? And don't be shy. I would like to hear everyone. Don't worry, we're all crazy. But this is good crazy, not crazy crazy. And we need more of this. You can imagine when I'm in Singapore, I do a lot of this because they really need it. Okay? So don't be shy. So down, breathe in, open. Ah. 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 Just let it all out. Ah. 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 One more time. Ah. Wow, a lot of crazy people in PJ, huh? Very good. Breathing in, breathing out. Come back to balancing chi. This one movement you can do during the day, say in the workplace or even at home. If you happen to feel some stress, or some upset, just do this. Just breathing in, breathing out. Okay. Now, hands above the head, we're going to do a side stretch, almost similar to the yoga side stretch. And just stretch to one side, any side, And just feel the stretch. Just breathe normally. And then change, other side. Okay. Breathing in, breathing out. And again, you're aware of in-breath going up, out-breath coming down. So there's no need to think. Just let go of thinking. Okay, and we can just relax the feet, the legs a little. Yeah. Now, this is how I get Malaysians to dance, because I know this is not a dancing culture, at least among the Chinese. I grew up in a very different culture from Malaysia. As you know, when you get together, what do? You chit-chat, makan, chit-chat, and you go home. Not in my country. Yes, we chit-chat, we makan, but then the music comes on and we all get up and dance. All age groups. So I learned to dance from a young age. And it's a form of Qigong, of course. So in this movement, feet apart, just bend your knees a little and just shift your weight from side to side. And then just move your arms from side to side. Breathing in one way, breathe out the other way. Okay. Breathing in, breathing out. This becomes like our center of focus and calmness. This is why you can do this anytime during the day, even for 1 minute, or half a minute. Okay, and just relax the legs and the feet again. Although the balancing, it looks simple, but when you practice it, it's very powerful because it brings you immediately in the present moment, especially if you're in a very busy, stressful place, like say work. And when I meet medical people, doctors, nurses, I show them this one practice. Because, hospitals can get pretty crazy, right? Pretty busy, very crazy. And you can do this sitting down also, not only standing, but sitting down, yeah. And the next one is for the shoulders, like this. Just breathing in, just bring your shoulders up as high as you can, and breathe out. Okay, and we just relax the legs again. And we'll just finish with the standing Qigong, just for a few minutes. But in China, there's one school of Qigong where this is their main practice, just standing. And they stand up to 1 hour, if you can imagine. But you can't stand for 1 hour immediately. You have to slowly work up to 1 hour, 5 minutes, 10, 15. But not only for the legs, but also the focus also. Yeah. But believe me, 5 minutes will feel like 1 hour initially. Okay, now, feet apart, and just place your palms close together. Do you feel anything in your fingers? Anything? Tingling, yeah. Sometimes you don't feel it initially, but eventually you do. That's the qi, the tingling. And it's related to the blood flow. So anytime you do anything physical, even walking, if you do this at the end, you'll feel it. You become more and more sensitive to the qi. Now, in this standing, it's important that you bend your knees a little. what we call soft knee. And why we do this, because the Chinese discovered this centuries ago that if the knees are stiff, the qi gets blocked and it cannot flow through the body. But when the knees are bent, when they're soft, then the qi can flow very easily and it stimulates the internal organs. So it's very good for the internal organs, just standing. But the knees have to be bent, even a little. So just be aware of the body in this position with soft knee, and then in breath, out breath. Okay. Wow, that was 1 hour. So we're going to spread the chi from the hands over the body. Then fingers together, breathe in, stretch. Okay, and then just bend a little down, breathe in, open. Ah. 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 One more time. Ah. Okay, very good. So next time you're feeling upset, frustrated, angry, you know what to do, okay? So we have a drink and we sit with this wonderful chi, wonderful energy. Okay. Of course, on YouTube there are two videos on YouTube. So I'll give you the link, or Brother Bobby can give you the link. Yeah. And while sitting, you can feel the chi. Huh? Feel the chi in the body and in the mind. I will just start with a with a reflection. And a few months ago, when I returned to Canada, to Toronto from Germany, I was asked to participate in a peace celebration, which was held at City Hall in downtown Toronto. And each speaker had only 4 to 5 minutes. So I was wondering, what could I say in 4 to 5 minutes that could have some meaning? So I started by saying that one of the ways that I keep the mind peaceful is to avoid the news media as much as possible. Because I've come to realize that the news media is a major source of mental pollution. And during the pandemic, I could see this very clearly. You may recall the news media were just spreading fear and paranoia on a daily basis. And of course, in countries like North America and the UK, where the news media is so powerful, it was very, very unhealthy. But I know these days it's more difficult to avoid the news media simply because it's on your phones. You don't have to go to the television. Well, this is something you can reflect on. And I also gave this reflection. The world is in a very anxious, restless, and agitated state. The world is in a very anxious, agitated, and restless state. The mind changes from liking to disliking, from craving to aversion, from anxiety to frustration, with the restlessness and agitation of the world. If we can learn to make the mind calm and still, it will be the greatest help to the world. The mind changes from liking to disliking, from craving to aversion, from anxiety to frustration, with the restlessness and agitation of the world. If we can learn to make the mind calm and still, it will be the greatest help to the world. Because one of the insights that the Buddha had was that normally we think that the world is out there and I am here. So we feel that we're separate from the world, just like we're separate from nature. And we feel separate simply because we're conditioned with this idea of duality. Duality means subject and object. I've spoken about this before. And of course, the I is always the subject. So when the Buddha said, see the world as something which is impermanent and constantly changing, see the world as something which is unsatisfactory and uncertain because it's always changing, and see the world as something which is devoid of a permanent separate self or ego center. He wasn't speaking about the external empirical world, but rather the world of body and mind, this process that we are, Rupa and Dhamma, with the 6 consciousnesses: seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and thinking. So when we are more mindful, more present, we begin to see this fact that the world actually is here. It begins here. And that's why he said, mind is the forerunner of all things, of all our experiences. But only when we are mindful, very present, we can see the truth of this. Otherwise, we're just caught in that illusion of duality and separation. And because of this duality and separation, we tend to be asking this question that human beings have been asking for thousands of years. And today, we're still asking the same question, and in the future, we will be asking the very same question. And that question is, what happens to me when I die, and where do I go after death? It's a very popular question because we feel separate from nature, from the world, from the universe. And when we really understand this, that the world starts here and how all our experiences comes from the mind, then we have to take care of this mind. It's our responsibility to take care of this mind. We have to take care of our mental health. Very important. Because, our minds are easily distracted. Not only by mental activity, being caught up in so many stories, including worries and dramas and fears, sometimes craving, frustration. Sometimes there is a sadness, sometimes there is depression. And this is why the Dhamma is such a beneficial teaching. Because as you know, you can study so many subjects. You can get university degrees. But whatever we study, say in formal education, it will always be limited. Always be limited. Just like the intellect, the thinking mind, although we need it sometimes, but it is very limited. And you begin to see that most of our mental, emotional suffering and conflict and fears and anxieties, it's coming from thinking. And so this is why the Buddha, he was the first person to have a clear understanding of this human mind, how it can make us happy and peaceful and how at the same time this mind can make us very unhappy, very worried, very anxious, very frustrated, very sad, and so on. So no other subject teaches us how to deal with our human minds. Because if we don't train this mind, it's very reactive, and we are caught in mental defilements, because our minds are a result of social conditioning. All our minds are conditioned like this, and we're all conditioned with mental defilements. We can't avoid it. Just like we can't avoid learning languages, or at least one or two languages. And why we have mental defilements is because our brains are conditioned to react. Our minds are programmed or educated first to label, because we need labels to communicate. And then we're conditioned to judge, to criticize, to compare, sometimes to condemn. And of course, to like or not to like, to want or not to want, and to have aversion and ill will, which includes, of course, resentment, hatred, jealousy, disrespect, and so on. What we call our negative mental states. We're all conditioned like this. And I know in Western countries where people tend to be more intellectual, they're also very judgmental. And because they're very judgmental, they end up suffering a great deal from guilt. Because guilt is a result of the judgmental mind. And what is interesting about the Dhamma is that it was not invented by the Buddha. When he began to teach the Dhamma, it was not as if he had created some new philosophy, some new doctrine, but rather he was awakened to the truth of Dhamma, to the way things are, the laws of nature and the human condition, human experience, human consciousness, human suffering, conflict, worries, anxieties, and so on. So in other words, even if the Buddha had not existed, the Dhamma would still exist. So this is something that we can reflect on. For example, where I grew up, in the West Indies, and if you're not sure where the West Indies are, because believe me, when I was growing up and I heard about Malaysia, I thought, where the hell is Malaysia? And I came to learn about Malaysia through stamp collecting. You know, that wonderful hobby that young people used to have. Because young people these days have no idea, because of course they're on their smartphones. But it was such a beautiful hobby, wonderful hobby. Especially if you have a very curious, adventurous mind. And some of the stamps that I got were the old stamps from the Federation of Malaya, the British, they were during the British time. And from these stamps, I came to learn the name Johor, Selangor, and Perak. I remember those three names. And to me, these names, they seem so exotic, so far away somewhere. And in the stamp album, I came to learn the word Sarawak. And to me, Sarawak just seemed this exotic place far, far away. And somehow I knew, or I discovered, that there were headhunters there. And I never imagined in a million years that one day I would be visiting Sarawak. And I would be visiting Malaysia and Singapore. Sorry, I can't read. Yeah.
5 minutes.
Only have 5 minutes.
Yeah. There's a lunch tunnel, Bhante, Estanica, and Vedas downstairs.
Okay, I didn't realize that time was so short. Well, again, what can I say in 5 minutes? Well, all I can do is give you the link for my talks on YouTube. Because it's all on YouTube. But one of our main defilement is ignorance and delusion. And ignorance is the strong attachment to self or to ego. Because we all have a self or an ego, but it is just a result of conditioning. And it's not permanent, it's not something separate. And this is what the Buddha discovered. Yes, we do have a self, but when we investigate, it's as a result of conditioning in the mind, based on thinking, memory, and the use of language. And delusion is something that our minds are constantly being subjected to. And our main delusion is our habit of always reacting, as we just mentioned. Always reacting. And we don't realize that our habit of reacting is what is causing most of our conflicts and suffering. And when we're always reacting, we're always creating our own mental, emotional reality. Judging, criticizing, comparing, liking, not liking, wanting, not wanting, having aversion, and so on. And we believe that our mental, emotional reality that we're creating is what is important. But when we begin to practice the Dhamma, of course with mindfulness, we begin to see that the mental, emotional world that we're creating is really not important, but rather is a source of suffering and conflict. And this is why it took the Buddha, someone like the Buddha, to say, stop reacting so much and stop taking things so personally. Yeah. When you see, just see. When you hear, just hear. It sounds simple, but as you know, it's a very challenging advice. Because we're always reacting from childhood. So it does take practice, it takes reflection. And when you react less and less, you begin to see the freedom of it. And one way of not reacting to people's unpleasantness is what we just did. Just this one movement. If somebody is being unpleasant, criticizing you, trying to give you a hard time, instead of reacting, just do this. Breathing in, breathing out. And you smile. And you ignore that person. Very important. And you can imagine that person would be very puzzled and confused. Like, what the hell is he or she doing? But when you don't react to somebody's unpleasantness, including anger, criticism, and so on, they have no power over you. Just reflect on that. By not reacting, they have no power over you. Just ignore them. Or another skillful way, just point your finger at them and just laugh and say, "You're so funny," and then just walk away. "You're so funny," and walk away. And believe me, that will throw them completely off, right? Because they're expecting you to get angry or upset. Just laugh and say, "You're so funny," and just walk away. And of course, another source of delusion is when we're always when we're caught in stories and dramas and worries and anxieties, this might happen and that might happen and this might happen, you begin to realize it's only thinking. And you know that technique, you just say to yourself, it is only thinking, thinking, thinking. It's a very good technique. I used to use it myself, only thinking. And you come back to the present moment and you let it go. Because whatever we're thinking about, it's always impermanent. It comes, it goes, and there's tremendous freedom from that. Is 5 minutes up? Okay. So I'll give you the link, the video links for the YouTube. Okay? So wishing you a pleasant day. Be well, be peaceful, be happy.